Hey guys, tonight we journey deep into the frostbitten shadows of prehistory, where the wind howls across mammoth-battered plains and hunger claws at your ribs like a saber-tooth behind on dinner. You crouch low behind a cluster of stones, your breath fogging the air as you scan the white horizon. Not for danger this time, but for food. But the mammoths are gone. You haven't seen one in weeks. Just trampled snow and bone piles like reminders of what once was and what your stomach still aches for. You probably won't survive this, to be honest. But don't worry tonight. We're just going to pretend we're freezing, starving, and making some questionable culinary decisions in the name of staying alive. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And drop a comment with where you're listening from and what time it is. I love seeing where these bedtime travels take us. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The snow crunches beneath your bare feet, not because you're bold, but because the last of your mammoth hide boots fell apart 3 moons ago. Hunger creeps in, not just the sharp kind in your belly, but the kind that makes you forget things, like what it felt like to eat until you were full, or warm, or safe. Around you, the landscape is bleak. A few tusk stumps jut from the white like the spines of ancient gods. You remember that last kill 5 of your kin injured. 2 never came back, but for weeks you feasted. Tongue, liver, heart, even the tail fat, slow roasted over ash. But now, all that's left are brittle bones and fire-soaked memories. You kneel beside the grave of the last kill, tracing a spiral on the ivory curve of the mammoth femur. It's been picked clean. Not even marrow remains. The wolves beat you to it this time. Again, in the distance, a raven circles lazily mocking. Maybe, or just hungry too. You walk back to camp. Smoke rises from the pit fire, more for warmth than food. Your clan is quiet, gaunt-eyed, skin clinging to cheekbones like hide on frame. A baby cries thin and dry. You offer the last sliver of dried fat to her mother. She nods, not meeting your eyes. Tonight's menu is snow and smoke. Again, you chew on a strip of mammoth hide boiled until it's rubbery. It's not food, but your mind can almost be tricked if you gnaw long enough. Your teeth hurt, a molar cracks, but you don't spit it out. Might still be some protein in there, right? Historians still argue whether this stretch, the period just after the last Ice Age peak, was more of a slow famine or a series of rolling culinary disasters. Either way, you're living it, and it's not glamorous. There's no noble struggle, no victorious return, just snow and bones, and the sound of someone retching into the ash pit because they tried to eat something green and fuzzy again. Your clan leader, old enough to remember when the mammoth herd stretched across the valleys, sits by the fire and mumbles to himself. "They'll be back," he says. "They always come back." But his voice cracks, and not even the children believe him anymore. So you keep watch, not for predators, but for possibility. A moving shadow in the trees, a shift in the wind, the flutter of something edible. The last time someone spotted a deer, it turned out to be a frostbitten log. You still try to chew it, though. What's left when the megafauna leave? The question haunts you, because it's not just your belly that's empty. It's your memory of what else to do. You were a mammoth hunter. That was your identity, your culture, your rhythm. Without them, you are nothing or something else. That's the quiet terror of it all. Not just starving, but not knowing how to stop being hungry. You look down at your fingers, calloused, blackened from cold, blistered from stone tools. These hands once pulled warmth from a fallen beast. Now they tremble over ashes. Someone suggests moving camp south. Maybe. But someone else reminds them of the last group that did. Never returned, or maybe they did, as bones gnawed clean beneath a birch grove. You lie down beside the fire, stomach clawing at your spine. Sleep is the only escape, and even then, dreams taste like ash. Still, there's one tiny spark, a child, too young to remember what real meat tastes like, pulls at a squirrel tail like it's a toy. She laughs. The sound is so strange it makes everyone freeze. Then someone smiles, and for a moment, the hunger forgets its grip. A raven calls from the dark. You look up, eyes scanning the shadows again. No mammoths, not tonight, but you're still here. Your jaw aches by mid-morning. You've been chewing for hours, but not food, just a shard of bone softened over the fire, gnawed down to a dull stub. It's not about nutrition anymore. It's about tricking your stomach into thinking you're doing something useful. The real meal is memory. You sit beneath a bare tree, listening to the creak of wood in the wind and the low mutters of your clanmates rummaging for anything edible. One of them scrapes the last dried tendon from a mammoth rib, gnawing it with such desperation that you have to look away. There's nothing left, but no one wants to admit it. So you wander. You follow a trail of hoof prints, too small to be deer, too fresh to ignore. Your eyes stay low, scanning the frost-covered brush. And there beneath a frozen log you find something. A skull. Rodent. Picked clean by something else. But its bones might still have something in them. You pry open the jaw, pop the femurs, and crack them gently with a stone. Marrow. Not much, but enough to smear across your finger and suck like honey. It tastes of old blood and dirt, but your stomach welcomes it like a feast. Back at camp, someone has managed to strip bark from the pine trees. Not the thick outer stuff useless, but the tender inner layer cambium. You chew it like gum, bitter and fibrous. It takes effort. It gives little. But if you chew long enough, the starches release. And it's something. Historians still argue whether prehistoric humans ate bark out of desperation or as part of a seasonal practice. The line between starvation and tradition is often blurry, especially when the climate turns. You crouch near the fire again. Someone has managed to scrape together enough fat from the storage pit to grease a flat stone. It hisses over the flame. Thin strips of bone scrap and bark shavings cook slowly, if you can call it cooking. You watch the fat bubble, your eyes unfocused, hypnotized. A baby cries. Again. The mother clutches her tighter and hums softly, a tune you remember your own mother using long ago, when mammoth was plentiful and winters were a game, not a threat. You dream of meat. You dream of crunching snow underfoot as your spear sinks into thick hide, of the steam rising from fresh organs, of hot blood on your hands, warm and reassuring. You wake up chewing your own blanket. There are other things to gnaw: antlers, old sinew, hooves, all boiled and chewed and boiled again. You've never respected the word gristle so much. Some folks grind up bones and mix the powder with water to make a paste. It's chalky, but it fills the silence. One of the elders shares an old trick grinding bones into a fine powder, mixing them with ash and bark, then rolling them into balls and drying them near the fire. War cakes, they call them, more like dust pellets, but the name helps. You eat one and try not to gag. You remember a tale someone told last night that the ancient people, those who came before even your grandmother's time, survived entire seasons with nothing but bark, marrow, and the will to live. You wonder if the story's true, or just something someone made up to make today feel survivable. Someone spots movement. Everyone freezes. It's not a mammoth, not even a deer. It's a crow hopping from branch to branch, cocking its head with mocking intelligence, but in its beak something glints, a scrap of tendon. No, maybe a sliver of meat. You've never hated a bird so much in your life. One of the hunters throws a stone. It misses. The bird vanishes with a caw. Everyone exhales disappointment. Later, someone brings back a chunk of old bone from a cave. The smell hits you first. Rancid. But your clanmate grins, holding it like treasure. It's soft, he says. Rot's done the chewing for us. You roast it carefully, rotating it above the fire to kill whatever spirits may linger. It bubbles. The fat drips onto the stone with a hiss. You close your eyes and inhale. The stench is awful, but it still smells like food. Historians still debate whether prehistoric people intentionally fermented meat or simply tolerated rot. There's even evidence in some areas of meat caches buried and retrieved months later. Whether it was strategy or pure desperation, well, depends on whom you ask. You take a bite. It's not terrible. Slimy. Gamey. Wrong in every way your tongue remembers. But you chew and swallow, and your stomach doesn't rebel. Success. Someone else asks for a bite, and another. You pass it around. Each person taking a tiny morsel. It's a communion of rot, a feast of the forgotten. Night falls again. No one speaks much. Hunger flattens conversation. You curl up beneath a woven mat of hide and straw, chewing a bark twist until it turns to pulp in your mouth. And in the quiet before sleep, you hear it, your own belly groaning like a dying animal. You press a hand against it, whisper a promise. Tomorrow. But you're not sure what that means anymore. Your dreams are confusing. Half memory, half hunger hallucination. You're chasing a mammoth across a meadow, but it's made of bread. It crumbles as you run. When you finally catch it, the meat tastes like leather soaked in cold broth. You wake up gnawing on your own sleeve. The morning is brittle with frost. Your breath curls upward like it wants to escape. Everyone's slower now. The children barely move. The elders seem lighter, as if their bones are preparing to leave early. You know what that means. You've seen it before. And then someone says it, just loud enough to echo through the cold mist. We still have the boots. At first, no one responds. It's like saying the unthinkable out loud. The boots. The old pear mammoth leather. Thick. Cured last season. Never worn. They're in the storage hut, wrapped in moss. They've been saved for the next hunt. But there's no hunt coming. Not yet. So, the boots. You follow the others to the hut. Silent. Reverent. Almost. Like you're visiting an ancestor. Someone slices the leather into strips. Someone else drops them into the bone boil pot, along with ashes, bark, a few scraps of moss. The water hisses. No one speaks. Boiled shoes. It's not a joke. It's survival. The broth thickens over hours, turning into a greyish stew that smells like old campfires and desperation. You take a ladle, raise it to your lips, and sip. It's chewy. It's bitter. It's not awful. Your jaw works hard, pulling apart the dense leather, trying to unlock anything remotely nourishing. You swallow, and your stomach, surprised, doesn't argue. That's the most hope you've had in days. Historians still debate whether boiling leather for food was a common emergency method or something reserved for the most extreme conditions. We do know it happened famously during sieges, long winters, and yes, when mammoths vanished from sight. The clan gathers close. For the first time in a while, people talk while they chew. One child makes a joke about eating his father's mittens next. Everyone chuckles, quietly. The stew has loosened something more than your teeth. It's shaken out a sliver of morale. Someone brings out the sinew ties from an old sled, tosses them into the pot too. You shrug and nod. Why not? If it's once been mammoth, it's food now. You think about the animal that gave this leather, the weight of it, the warmth it once offered. Now it offers something else. Not comfort, but continuity. A reason to get through the next sunrise. You fish out a half-chewed strip of hide and bite into it again. It's like chewing a belt made of tree bark and hope. You don't stop. As night falls, the stew thickens. More people gather. Even the baby drinks a little, her tiny hands gripping the cup like it's sacred. And maybe it is. You glance across the fire at an old man who used to be one of your best hunters. His hands tremble as he chews on a bit of sole. He looks up and smiles at you. And it's not a happy smile, it's grateful. Like you both know something unspoken, the mammoths may be gone. But you're still here. Someone adds a strip of old fur lining into the pot. You blink but say nothing. Desperate times. Later, the pot is empty. A slick film of grease coats the inside. You scrape your finger along the bottom, pop it into your mouth. It's warm. Just enough to pretend you're full. You lie down that night on a mat of twigs and furs, stomach churning gently, not from sickness this time, but from effort. It's working. Kind of. And before sleep takes you, you imagine this scene centuries from now. People in strange clothing talking about your leather stew, shaking their heads and saying, they ate what you smile in the dark. They'd eat it too, if it meant seeing morning. By now, your stomach doesn't growl, it whimpers. It's moved past anger, past protest. It simply sulks in the quiet of your gut, waiting to be surprised. So today, you dig. Not for roots or treasure, no. This is lower ambition. You and two others grab pointed sticks and start poking at the half-thawed dirt near the edge of camp. It's where the soil stays loose, where trees once stood tall, but now just lean like tired ghosts. You jab at the ground and wait for it to squirm. And it does. The first find is small, a fat white grub, curled into a sea like it's sleeping peacefully in its dirt blanket. You hold it between two fingers. It pulses slightly. You try not to gag. This is breakfast. You throw it onto a heated flat stone near the fire. It sizzles and pops, the skin crisping like meat, though your nose insists it's still very much an insect. You pop it into your mouth. The crunch surprises you. The flavour does not. Earthy, nutty, a bit of rotten dirt. You chew with effort, swallow hard, and nod. That's one. Grubs, worms, beetles. They're not glamorous, but they're protein. In fact, modern science now backs this up. Edible insects are packed with nutrients. Of course, your ancestors didn't have research journals. They had empty bellies and curiosity. And sometimes, desperation. You keep digging. The next find is a cluster of worms, wet and wriggling. One tries to escape between your fingers. You hold it up, its slimy body glistening in the low light. Someone next to you says, You first. You sigh and slurp it down like the saddest spaghetti imaginable. Historians still argue whether insect consumption in prehistory was routine or emergency behaviour. Some cave paintings suggest gathering insects was organised. Others argue it's just what people did when nothing else moved. You don't really care what the scholars think. Your mouth is full of worm. A girl in the clan, a clever one, sharp-eyed starts finding beetle grubs beneath bark. They're fatter than the worms and less squishy. She tosses them on a leaf, lines them up like prizes. She's smiling, not because she enjoys this, but because it feels like victory. And maybe it is. Someone spears a centipede, huge and twitching. They throw it in the fire, and it curls like a snake made of rubber bands. The smell is horrendous. No one volunteers for that one. Eventually, a boy dares himself and bites off the head. He throws up behind a tree 5 minutes later. Lesson learned. You return to the fire with your handful of crawling things. You roast them carefully, trying not to inhale the aroma. One beetle sizzles so loud it sounds like it's screaming. You flip it with a stick and press it flat. Crunch. Done. You pass a few around. Everyone eats in silence. Even the children. Even the elder with the shaking hands. You all chew together, like a choir of resignation. You wonder if this will become tradition someday. Bug night. Once a year. Maybe. When food is low. Light a fire. Tell stories. Roast a handful of beetles. And pretend it's always been that way. The thought almost makes you laugh. Later, you find yourself craving more not out of desire, but because your body noticed. The protein did something. Your mind feels clearer, your hands steadier. It's not satisfaction, but it's not misery either. Someone suggests boiling the bugs next time, with bark for flavour. You nod. Innovation through suffering. One of the elders tells a story as the fire burns low. Once, he says, the gods turned a greedy hunter into a beetle, told him he could only be eaten by those he failed to feed. Everyone chuckles. Then they look at the next grub in their hand a little differently. That night, you dream of golden grubs with wings that flutter and whisper secrets. You eat one, and suddenly you understand the language of the forest. Trees speak, stones hum, the wind sings. You wake up chewing air, just another morning. Still, there's one good thing about bugs, they're everywhere. You'll never look at a rotting log the same way again. You smell it before you see it. That faint, sour, rot-like meat left too long in the sun, but not quite dead enough to abandon. Your stomach clenches, not in disgust, but in grim anticipation. Someone found something. You walk toward the scent, weaving past the others still gathering bark curls and beetles. A small group stands around a flat stone. In the centre lies a chunk of meat, green around the edges, slick with age. No one says where it came from. Maybe it washed up. Maybe someone found it in a crevice of forgotten snow. Maybe. No one wants to know. What matters is this. It's meat. Rotten. Probably dangerous. But meat. You squat beside it and inhale again, cautiously. Your brain says no. Your stomach says try. One brave soul slices off the least offensive bit and places it on a hot stone. The meat sizzles, releasing a smell that's equal parts salvation and crime scene. You all watch it like it's a sacred rite. When it's cooked through, or at least charred black, he bites. He chews slowly, jaw tight, eyes closed. No immediate gag. No death collapse. He opens one eye and nods. That's enough. The others take turns slicing, cooking, sampling. No one eats too much. You know better. This is a gamble. A few bites might help. More might kill you. Historians still argue whether prehistoric humans had ways of testing meat safety, or if they just played evolutionary roulette with every meal. Some suggest smell and texture were their guides. Others believe rituals or animal observation helped. You don't have time to debate it. You have half-cooked rot on a stone. You try a small piece. It's rubbery, metallic, sour. Your teeth slip on the slime. Your instincts scream. You chew anyway, and when you swallow, you feel no worse, maybe slightly more alive. A child gags after his first bite. He's comforted quickly, given bark sap to suck on to chase the taste. You suck your own teeth. That meat will sit in your gut like a warning. Later, someone suggests digging a pit near camp to store future finds like this, somewhere cold, shaded, maybe with moss or snow packed inside. A preservation method. Not ideal, but better than letting meat go green in the sun. You nod. It's not a bad idea. Prehistoric refrigeration, if you want to get fancy about it. Still, there's something haunting about the idea of waiting for meat to rot just enough to not kill you. You wonder how many before you misjudged. As night falls, you sit by the fire, the last bite still heavy in your belly. You feel warmer, not just from the meat, but from the idea that maybe, just maybe, your clan is learning how to survive without mammoths. It's a strange thought. You stare at the flames and remember the taste. Not pleasant, not comforting, but real. You made it through another day. Barely. You wake to the sound of water. Not rain, this is gentler, a distant rhythm, a lapping hush. The ice along the stream finally cracked, and now the mudflats are exposed. Your stomach grumbles in hopeful agreement. You rise slowly, muscles stiff from sleeping on packed earth and tangled furs. Someone's already gathering stones and baskets. There's a murmur in the air, something close to optimism. The stream curves around the edge of your camp, its banks rich with silt, moss, and secrets. In better times, you'd skip this place. Too wet, too muddy. But now it's your pantry. You squelch through the sludge barefoot, each step sucking at your heel. Cold mud squeezes between your toes. You dig with your hands, fingers numb and red, and begin searching carefully, methodically. The first prize is small, a mussel shell, blue-grey and flecked with grit. You pry it open with a cracked rock and scoop out the pale flesh. It shivers in your palm, plump and glossy. You hesitate for only a second. Then down it goes, raw, salty, cool, like the sea. If the sea lived in your mouth and didn't ask permission, you gag just slightly, then smile. Your belly hums its approval. Others gather close. Soon there's a pile of mollusks, clams, even a few snails. One elder finds a flat, wriggling creature. Some sort of mudworm swears it tastes like fish if you cook it long enough. No one argues. You toss it on a hot rock and let it curl and sizzle. Historians know this part well. Early humans living near coasts and rivers relied heavily on shellfish. Shell middens, the ancient garbage piles of discarded shells, are scattered across continents. Some date back tens of thousands of years, but you're not thinking about history. You're thinking about your next bite. One of the younger ones slices his foot on a sharp shell, and suddenly the joy fades a little. You wrap it in moss, tight. Infection is no small threat out here. Still, the tide has left behind treasures. You scoop handfuls of silt, feeling for texture, for movement. Each discovery is a moment of hope. A mud-crusted crab tries to skitter away. You're faster. It claws weakly at your hand, but you laugh and toss it into the cook fire. Sorry. Little one, it's nothing personal. The others prepare a brine a shallow pit with hot stones and a bit of salt from the rocks. The shellfish simmer gently, releasing a scent that actually makes you close your eyes. It's the first time in weeks that something smells good. You slurp a steamed mussel and chase it with a snail, still bubbling. You burn your tongue a little, but don't care. It's food. It's real. A child digs up what he thinks is a root. It's a buried turtle. Everyone gathers. It blinks slowly, unaware of its fate. The decision is quick. A stew. Someone suggests. You nod. You've heard turtle meat is rich, oily. They say it tastes like pond water and dreams. One fringe theory suggests ancient people sometimes farmed mollusks by returning young ones to tidal pools. Historians still argue whether this counts as the earliest aquaculture or just wishful thinking from modern scholars. Either way, you'd totally try it. Anything to get ahead of the hunger curve. The stew simmers, shellfish, mudworm, turtle chunks, even a few crushed snails for thickness. You stir it with a stick, your mouth watering despite yourself. Night falls with a sea salt breeze. You eat together, crouched low, slurping from wooden bowls. The broth is cloudy, rich, gritty with bits of shell. You don't care. You're full. It doesn't last long, of course. Hunger is patient, but tonight it retreats, just a little. You lie near the fire, a belly full of shellfish, and drift into sleep imagining waves licking your toes. And maybe, just maybe, you dream of the ocean too. The world is quieter today. Still cold, but the biting wind has softened into a whisper, and the trees seem to stand less like enemies and more like old watchers. You wake slowly, licking dried salt from your lips. The memory of last night's shellfish stew clings like a dream, briny, warm, fleeting, but the stew is gone, and hunger returns like an old friend who doesn't knock anymore. You stand, stretch your aching limbs, and head into the brush with a small woven pouch. Today isn't for hunting or digging. Today is for gathering, for berry season, or what might pass for it in this bleak in-between time when snow hasn't quite surrendered and the sun still hides more than it shines. You follow a trail marked by clawed bark and deer droppings, tracing the places where the land thaws first, and there, tucked low among thorns and bramble, you spot them clusters of red, purple, and orange berries, tiny, shriveled, a little sad to be honest, but still berries. You pick a handful and pause. Instinct whispers caution. Some berries feed you, some bury you. You eat one anyway. It bursts between your teeth sour, seedy, barely sweet. Your tongue curls, uncertain. You wait a few moments, gauging your pulse, listening for nausea. Nothing. Encouraged, you eat a few more. Back at camp, others return with their own finds. A palmful of blue-grey berries, long and waxy. Another with round red ones, firm and shiny. Someone else dumps a pouch of shriveled dark clusters like raisins, angrier cousins. No one knows exactly what they are. You decide to test each one, carefully. One bite. Wait. No twitching. No burning. No sudden coma. So far, so good. Historians still argue whether prehistoric humans had systematic ways of identifying edible berries. Some think trial and error ruled the day, while others point to observed animal behaviour. If a bird eats it and survives, maybe you can too. Then again, Some birds can eat things that would put you face first in a fern within an hour, so you nibble slowly. One berry is bitter enough to bring tears to your eyes, another is so dry it might as well be bark. But a few, just a few, are tolerable, even pleasant. You set those aside. Luxury, in the most primitive sense. Then someone in the group drops their pouch. A small child picks up one of the spilled berries and pops it in her mouth before anyone can stop her. Everyone freezes. The child blinks, chews, swallows, then giggles. False alarm. The entire group exhales as one. You spend the afternoon sorting, taste testing, arguing gently about which berries to avoid. A few of the elders swear by an old trick rub a berry on your skin first. If it doesn't burn, rub it on your lips. If that's fine, try a nibble. It's not foolproof, but it feels better than blind guessing. You try mashing the better ones into a paste with a flat stone. It becomes a sticky, tart jam of sorts, thick and dark. You smear it on a piece of pine bark and chew slowly. Your mouth puckers. Your stomach rumbles in approval. The clan leader suggests drying the rest. You spread the remaining good berries on a flat sun-warmed stone, hoping the wind won't carry them away. They'll shrivel further, but at least they won't rot. In a few days, you might even call them snacks. One young woman finds a strange purple berry with a waxy sheen. She's sure it's good. Says she remembers her grandmother calling them owl's grapes. You all watch as she eats one. She smiles. Then, a moment later, frowns. Her hand presses to her stomach. Everyone goes silent again. She doesn't collapse, just groans, then sits. 3 hours later, she's fine. Probably. Just too many, she mutters. You all nod, pretending that explains everything. You remember a story told by an old man seasons ago about a boy who ate from the wrong bush and saw the sky melt into feathers. Everyone laughed back then. Now you wonder if he simply found the prehistoric version of psychedelic berries. It wouldn't be the strangest dinner outcome you've had this month. One scholar once proposed that early humans may have discovered altered states through spoiled fruit or wild fungi. The line between food and medicine and poison was thin, and sometimes the most dangerous plant was also the most healing, in the right amount. You pluck another berry, study it. It's strange how beautiful they are. Tiny droplets of colour against the grey-brown of survival, like someone out there, nature, the gods, who knows, still had a sense of humour. By evening you've eaten just enough to dull the ache. Not full, never full, but not trembling anymore. You lie down near the fire, your lips still stained blue and red, and watch sparks drift into the dusk like fireflies. Somewhere in your dreams tonight, you'll taste real sweetness again. There's a crackle in the underbrush. Not wind, not snow shifting. Something alive. You freeze body still, breath shallow. Your eyes scan the brush. Your fingers tighten on the stone in your hand. Everyone else in the foraging group stops too. You all know that sound. It's not mammoth big, not deer fast. It's smaller. Another rustle, then a squeak. Your heart jumps. It's food. You crouch low, creeping forward like your ancestors taught you. Your footsteps are silent. Well, as silent as you can manage on brittle frost and twigs. You edge around a thorn bush and see it a field mouse. Plump, oblivious, minding its own business under a root. You don't hesitate. You hurl the stone. It thuds. The mouse twitches once, then goes still. Dinner. You hold it up by the tail like a trophy. It's barely the length of your hand. but your stomach reacts like you just bagged a buffalo. Back at camp, the others gather around. There's no scoffing anymore. No one's too proud for mice these days. One of the elders remembers how to skin it pinch, pull, peel. You watch carefully. Inside, the meat is pink and clean, almost delicate. You roast it whole over the fire, the skin crackling, the smell. Not bad, honestly. A little like singed hair at first, but then it sweetens, grows savoury. You eat it slowly, picking meat off bone, careful not to waste a single bite. Even the organs go down. The heart is chewy. The liver is bitter but rich. Someone else brings back a frog, not a toad. Those are toxic. You've learned the hard way. But this frog's smooth-skinned, fat with damp cold. It squirms until someone ends its life quickly and respectfully. Frog legs are a rare treat. You roast them over a flat stone. They twitch as they cook, muscle memory firing one last time. Creepy. Yes, but the smell is incredible. Like the softest meat from a stream-fed dream. You dip the frog leg in a little mashed berry paste, your attempt at flavour. The result is oddly gourmet, in the starving and slightly insane category. Historians confirm that small mammals and amphibians were crucial fallback foods for prehistoric people. Rodents, frogs, even lizards. High in protein, easy to catch, quick to cook. They just don't get the romantic treatment mammoths do in cave paintings. Probably because no one wants to carve a triumphant mouse hunt into stone. One child pulls a snake from under a log. Everyone stares. Is it venomous? Maybe. You study the head. No fangs. It might be okay. You pin the wriggling body with a forked stick and finish it quickly. Skinning is trickier. It peels in a long sheath, like an inside-out sock. The meat is clean, white, almost like fish. You roast it slow. It hisses in the fire like it's whispering secrets. You chew carefully. The taste is bland, but the texture is satisfying, tough, but not dry. You nod to the boy. Good find. He beams. The day turns into a kind of competition. Who can bring back the most squeaky snacks by dusk? The pile includes mice, frogs, one lizard still twitching, and a few crickets for garnish. You never thought you'd say this, but it's a feast. You eat crouched around the fire, gnawing bones, licking fingers. Someone jokes that the frogs taste like sky chicken. Someone else says the mouse reminded them of a dream they had about duck. Everyone laughs a little too hard. Desperation does strange things to your sense of humour. Historians still debate whether small game was a primary food source or simply a famine fallback. The truth is probably both. You can't spear a mammoth every day, but a handful of mice and a basket of frogs that you can manage. You keep the bones, clean them, sharpen them into needles or fish hooks. Nothing gets wasted now. Later, lying beside the fire, you feel something new in your gut. Not fullness, not even comfort, but strength. You're not just surviving, you're adapting, learning the rhythms of the land when the big prey is gone, reading footprints, listening for squeaks, trusting your ears more than your eyes, and as the stars blink above, you realise something else. That crackle in the bush. Tomorrow, it might be a feast. You smell the sweetness before you see it, a wild, dizzying perfume drifting through the trees, thick, golden, almost out of place in this brittle, mud-stained world. It's the smell of something alive, something rich. Your feet move before your brain catches up, pulling you toward the scent like a sleepwalker, and then you hear it, a hum, gentle at first, then louder, like a warning. Bees. You crouch low behind a log and squint up at the hollow of a tree. There, just behind a peeling slab of bark, is a miracle. A honeycomb, pale gold and gleaming in the dim light, swarmed by hundreds of buzzing guardians. The hive pulses with life, like a beating heart made of syrup and wings. Your stomach growls. You want it, desperately. But the hive is high. The bees are fast. And you remember the last time someone tried to snatch honey bare-handed. His face looked like a swollen root for a week. Still, the craving is real. Sweetness is rare. In a world where most food is bitter, bland, or buried in dirt, honey is the closest thing to joy. So you plan. Someone suggests smoke. You grab dry moss, roll it tight, and light it with an ember. The smoke billows up in soft curls. You wave it gently toward the hive. The bees stir, buzz angrily, then begin to quiet, drowsy, confused. You scale the tree slowly, heart pounding. Every movement counts. A slip means pain, or worse. At the top, you reach into the hive hand wrapped in a thick pelt for protection, and pry loose a chunk of comb. Warm honey drips down your arm. The bees begin to stir again. No time. You clamber down as fast as you can, stumble the last few feet and land hard, but the comb is still in your hands. A few stings, one behind your ear, one on your neck. Manageable. Worth it. Back at camp, the others gather like moths to fire. You crack the comb open and watch golden liquid ooze out. It's thick, fragrant, divine. You scoop a fingertip's worth and taste it. Everything stops. Your tongue remembers. Sweetness. Real sweetness. Not berries. Not bark. Not scraped tree sap or overripe root. This is sun turned to sugar. Warmth distilled into liquid. The clan takes turns, dipping fingers, licking palms, murmuring soft sounds of awe. For a moment, the hunger lifts, not just in your stomach, but everywhere. Even the air feels lighter. Historians know that early humans ate honey. Ancient cave art in Spain even shows a person on a ladder, harvesting from a hive. Whether they understood bee behaviour or just braved it on instinct, we may never know. But the obsession with sweetness is universal and prehistoric. Later, you mix the leftover honey with roasted bugs, crunchy, sticky, weirdly addictive. You spread a little honey on bark, press seeds into it, let it dry. You've made your first prehistoric granola bar. A bit sad, a bit brilliant. One of the elders remembers something odd, boiling honey with herbs to make a kind of syrup. You try it. The mixture thickens, bubbles, smells medicinal. You sip a drop. It burns slightly. Clears your head. Someone jokes that you've invented healing potions. You don't argue. At sunset, you crush the leftover wax into balls, storing it in a birch pouch. Maybe you'll burn it later. Maybe you'll chew it like gum. Who knows? You sit near the fire with a bit of honey still stuck to your fingers. You suck on them slowly, drawing out the flavour, unwilling to let go of the moment. Bees hum in the trees, distant, undisturbed, for now. You wonder if they know how much their work meant today. Probably not, but you'll remember, and tomorrow, if you hear that hum again, you'll follow it. No hesitation. The fire burns low this morning, its embers glowing like tired eyes. You crouch near it, chewing a piece of bark softened in leftover honey. It's not tasty, not really, but your body barely registers flavour anymore. Only fuel. A shout breaks the quiet. You rise instantly, following the sound. It's coming from the edge of the clearing near the ridge. One of the younger hunters is waving his arms, eyes wide. He points downslope. Scavengers, he says breathlessly. Hyenas. You groan. Not in fear, though that would be reasonable, but in frustration. Hyenas mean meat, but also danger. They don't hunt like wolves. They don't play fair. They take, and they laugh while doing it. Still, hyenas don't finish their kills. Not always. And where they go, scraps remain. So you follow. It's a long, silent walk through thornbrush and hard snow. Your eyes scanning for movement. Your ears tuned to the strange whooping cries that echo through the hills. The smell hits first sharp, metallic, too fresh to ignore. Then you find it. A carcass. Something big. Not mammoth too small. Maybe an aurochs or bison. Whatever it was. It's mostly gone. The ribcage is open, bone stripped clean. But the hyenas are still there, 4 of them, with blood-stained snouts and impatient eyes. They circle the body, snapping and snarling, protecting the leftovers like royalty. You and the others stay low, hidden, watching. One of the elders whispers, "Wait, they'll move on." So you wait, and wait. The sun climbs higher. The wind shifts. A hyena lifts its head, sniffing. Then, slowly, they begin to drift off, disappearing into the grass like ghosts. You move in, fast. The body is awful, ripped, crushed, stinking, but not empty. There's marrow in the leg bones. There's a strip of fat clinging to the spine. One brave soul reaches into the rib cage and finds a kidney. Half torn but untouched, you carve quickly, filling baskets and skins with what remains. Flies buzz around you. The stink coats your nose and throat, but you don't care. You've done worse. One boy retches. You hand him a strip of meat anyway. He takes it. Historians know that scavenging was a crucial survival strategy. In many regions, early humans didn't kill. They waited, letting lions or hyenas take the risks, and then swooping in to grab the scraps. Was it risky? Yes. Was it resourceful? Absolutely. You drag a marrow-filled femur back to camp like it's a trophy. You crack it with a hammerstone once, twice, until the creamy centre leaks out. You scoop it with a splintered rib and slurp it down. Warm, oily, glorious. Someone roasts a kidney on a flat rock. The smell draws everyone close. Even the pickiest child chews quietly, reverently. One of the elders tosses fat into the fire, not to waste it, but to burn the scent. Keep predators away, he murmurs. Maybe. Or maybe it's ceremony, a gift to the old spirits. Either way, you nod. You boil the scraps. The broth turns cloudy, thick with flavour. You drop in bark, a few dried berries, even a pine cone. It becomes a kind of soup rough, strange but nourishing. The mood in camp lifts. People sit straighter. Someone hums. Someone else whistles a hunting song. You pass around a strip of roasted skin. It snaps like jerky. Not bad. One of the young women carves a hyena tooth into a necklace. For strength, she says, to remind herself that even scavengers can be outsmarted. You watch the firelight flicker in her eyes and think, she's not wrong. That night, you sleep with a full belly. Not overflowing, but full enough to dream. And in your dream, you are a hyena, laughing through the night, clever and fearless. When you wake, you keep the laugh. Quiet, under your breath. You earned it. The bones crack with a satisfying pop. You've set up near the fire again, crouched low, turning a hot stone over the embers while two others heat a second batch. The technique is basic prehistoric kitchen wizardry at its finest. No pots, no pans, just heat, pressure, and a little luck. Tonight's meal, boiled roots and singed sinew, cooked in a pit lined with rocks and covered in wet moss to trap the steam. Your ancestors didn't have cookware, but they knew how to make the earth itself into a slow cooker. Someone adds ash to the pit for flavour or preservation. Maybe. No one really remembers why, but it's what the elders did. So you follow the ritual. You've learned not to ask too many questions when the food is working. As the stones hiss and the smell rises earthy, nutty, not entirely unpleasant, you pull a marrow bone from the coals. You crack it open with a sharp rock, exposing the golden interior like some kind of treasure. It oozes out, thick and shiny. You dip a sliver of roasted bark into it and lick it clean. It's delicious. Your tongue doesn't even flinch anymore at the grittiness. You've grown used to the taste of dirt, ash, fur, bark. Your stomach now sees them all as variations of edible. Nearby, a young boy is trying his hand at hot stone boiling. He's dug a shallow pit, lined it with leaves, and dropped in a bird carcass, something caught earlier in a net trap. Not much meat, but enough to flavour the water. He adds hot stones carefully, one at a time, using 2 sticks like oversized chopsticks. The stones bubble and hiss as they hit the water. A gentle steam rises. Everyone watches. Hot stone cooking may seem crude, but it's efficient. Some researchers believe it was widespread even 30,000 years ago, used from tundras to tropics. Without clay pots, this was the only way to get a real soup going, and soup means hydration, warmth, and hope. You add a few bitter roots you scavenged yesterday, something between carrot and disappointment. They soften in the broth, breaking apart like tired teeth. Someone tosses in beetle grubs. Protein, texture, more flavour than you'd admit. The steam thickens. The pit gurgles like it's alive. You pull a strand of sinew from the broth and wrap it around a twig. It clings, sticky and firm, like prehistoric noodles. You slurp it up, ignoring the strange looks from others. They'll try it too, eventually. One of the elders speaks between bites. When I was a child, he says, we cooked a whole bird this way, with hot stones in its belly, stuffed with herbs. It fell apart in our hands. You smile. You've never had a bird fall apart. Yours always seemed to resist, chewing back with each bite. But still, you imagine it. A soft bird, seasoned, warm, something to remember. You spoon more soup from the pit with a cracked shell. It dribbles down your chin, scalding your tongue just slightly. The pain feels good, real. You're alive. After all, later, you place fresh stones in the fire. Tomorrow will need more cooking, more boiling. Maybe you'll try eggs if you find them. Maybe fish. Who knows what the next day holds? The night winds settle in, cold and dry. You wrap yourself in a mammoth fur cloak, one of the last real ones in camp, and settle beside the dying embers. Your belly is warm. Your hands smell like ash and fat, and you feel, for once, like you've done something right. Historians still argue whether hot stone boiling was used primarily for plants or meats. Some say it was too labour-intensive for regular use. Others insist it was a cornerstone of Ice Age cuisine. But you know this, it works. And right now, that's all that matters. You close your eyes and drift to sleep with the scent of soup in your nose and a thin line of marrow still drying on your lip. Your teeth hurt when you wake up. Not from illness, not yet, but from use. Constant chewing, grinding, gnawing. Every meal is a test of endurance, not just flavour. And the things you eat lately, they're not gentle. They fight back. This morning your breakfast is seeds. Tiny, hard, everywhere. You found them yesterday in a patch of dry grass near the stream. Thousands of them, clinging like dust to brittle stalks. It took hours to gather enough to fill a pouch. Now you spread them on a flat rock, using another stone to grind them down. It's slow, rhythmic work, stone on stone, seed against grit. Dust rises, and your wrists ache. You feel like you're crushing time itself. What's left isn't flour, it's more like gravel. Coarse, sharp. If you had a proper tool, a smooth mortar, you might get something finer. But this is what you've got. You add a bit of water, stir it with a twig. It becomes a kind of paste grey, dense, slightly sticky. You spread it onto a leaf and roast it near the fire. It doesn't smell like anything. It doesn't taste like anything. But it fills space in your belly. That's enough. You eat slowly, each bite grinding back at your molars. Grit slips between your teeth. Some seeds don't break, they just slide down your throat like tiny stones. You chase it with water, hoping it'll soften inside you. One of the children eats too quickly and begins to cry, clutching her jaw. You soothe her with a smear of pine sap. Not for the pain, just to distract her with something sweet and sticky. She licks her fingers quietly, and the crying stops. Historians agree that seeds and grasses became dietary staples long before agriculture, but they weren't easy calories. Every handful meant hours of work harvest, grinding, cooking, and every meal wore your teeth down a little more. Some ancient skulls show molars ground nearly flat. Others reveal cavities from constant starch chewing. You're already feeling it. The inside of your cheek is raw. Your back tooth throbs. Still, you keep chewing, because seeds are everywhere. They last, and they mean you're not quite out of options. Later, someone finds a different patch round the seeds, darker, almost nutty in smell. You try those next, grind, mix, roast. The cakes are a little better. A little. You joke that if you ever find a bird with teeth, you'll hire it to chew for you. Nobody laughs. Their jaws hurt too much. You experiment with soaking the seeds overnight in stream water. In the morning, they're softer, slightly. You try to mash them into a porridge. It's lumpy and bland, but easier on your mouth. A few of the older ones complain that this food isn't real, that it doesn't taste like meat or even bark, that it's lifeless. You nod. They're not wrong. But when hunger presses in, even lifeless things start to whisper comfort. You keep chewing. Later, as the sky goes dark, you press your tongue to a loose tooth and wonder how long it will last. You imagine a future with no teeth at all, just gums, just swallowing, just slop, and still you'd keep eating, because giving up is harder than chewing. Something sticky clings to your fingertips, sweet, amber-coloured, and slow to move. Tree sap. You press it between your fingers. It pulls apart in long strings, elastic and golden, like taffy made by a forest that doesn't care if you live or die. You found it oozing from a wounded pine, trickling down the bark in lazy drips. It smells sharp, clean, almost medicinal, but underneath, there's a hint of sugar. You taste it, just a dab. It's not honey, but it's close enough. You scrape off a handful with a flat rock and drop it into a bark cup. The others gather around, drawn by the faint scent. One of them dips a fingertip, then blinks in surprise. "It's good," she whispers, as if it's a secret. It is. Someone jokes that it's dessert. No one laughs, but they all take a turn anyway. Tree sap isn't just flavour, it's fuel. It clings to your teeth, coats your tongue, makes your brain hum with a slow, sugary rhythm. You chew it like gum, rolling it between your molars, letting the sweetness stretch the moment. Nearby, a boy peels bark from a tree and uncovers a colony of ants. He watches them crawl, fascinated. Then quickly, he scoops a few into his palm and pops them into his mouth. Crunch. You raise your eyebrows, but he grins. Tastes like lemon. He says, "You try one." He's not wrong. You and the others begin turning over stones, logs, and bark in search of more six-legged snacks. Crickets, ants, beetles, even a fat spider or two, though those are met with suspicion. The ants are best roasted, just a quick roll on a hot rock. Their tiny bodies crisp and sizzle, and the scent is oddly citrusy. You mix them with tree sap. Now you have something. Insect candy. It's crunchy. It's sweet. It's unsettling. And yet, somehow, it's also the best thing you've eaten all week. Historians agree that prehistoric diets included insects, especially in warmer regions. Some tribes even favoured certain species for their nutritional content high in protein, easy to find, and surprisingly rich in fats. But few people talk about how those bugs were flavoured or paired. You apparently have invented ant brittle. The children love it. They ask for more. You hand them bark paddles and send them out to find their own ingredients. Soon, camp becomes a foraging frenzy. Sap collectors, bug hunters, bark peelers, everyone contributes. You melt sap over a warm stone, mix in ground seeds, and pack it into leaf moulds. The result is rough, chewy, and strange, but it fills the stomach and makes people smile. You're not just eating now, you're creating. Later, a girl finds a cluster of bees stuck in a tree wound, trapped in sap like amber fossils. She plucks them out and lines them up beside a fire to dry. You ask if she's going to eat them. She shrugs. Maybe. Prehistoric fine dining. You sit near the fire with your bark plate of sap and bugs, watching the flames flicker. The sweet sour crunch in your mouth is bizarre, addictive. You think back to the roasted frogs, the bark paste, the mouse stew. You've come a long way. You're still hungry, but less often now, more creatively. One of the elders stares into the fire and says, "When the mammoths left, I thought we'd vanish too." You nod slowly, but instead you found sweetness in a tree wound and snacks crawling in the mud. You're still here, chewing, inventing, surviving. The air is warmer today, not by much, but enough to loosen the snow along the southern cliffs. Water drips in slow rhythm from the ledges above, pattering onto stone, marking time like a slow, steady drum. You're climbing, not because you want to, but because someone spotted a nest high in the rock face birds. They said, "Eggs, maybe." And eggs mean protein, soft food, real food. No chewing gravel or sucking bark. So you climb. Your fingers dig into rough stone, your breath shallow. Every foothold is a promise or a lie. The wind catches at your hair and pulls at your fur wrappings. The drop below is not gentle, but you reach the ledge, and there they are. A nest of dry grass and feathers, tucked between two outcroppings. Inside 3 perfect eggs. Pale, speckled, uncracked, warm, even. A miracle. You smile. Carefully, you slide one into a sling made of twisted sinew, then the second, the third, that one you eat now. You crack it open against the stone, slurp the contents into your mouth. The yolk coats your tongue like sunshine. Rich, silky, it runs down your chin. You wipe it with your sleeve and grin. You've missed this. Suddenly wings. A shriek above you or a flash of talons. The mother bird. She dives. You duck, shielding the sling. Her wing clips your shoulder sharp and fast. You press yourself against the rock, heart pounding. She circles again, screaming. You don't blame her. You'd scream too if someone ate your children. But survival doesn't wait for permission. You lower yourself carefully, hugging the rock face. The last egg swings gently in the sling, warm against your chest. Back at camp, the others crowd around. The egg is cracked over a hot stone, its white curling, the yolk bubbling gently. Everyone watches in reverent silence. Then someone brings out two more. They'd been watching the cliffs too. You're not the only climber. You make a nest of embers, cook all three together. The smell is delicate, like roasted nuts and morning sun. The taste softer than anything you've eaten in moons. You share. One bite each, but even that changes everything. Historians know prehistoric people raided nests. From gulls on cliffs to ducks in riverbanks, eggs were a treasured seasonal food. Some even believe they were considered sacred, symbolic of renewal, of balance. But when you're starving, symbols become snacks. One child finds a ground nest the next day. Quail. Maybe. Tiny eggs. A dozen of them. You boil them in bark cups lined with hot rocks. They firm up gently, and you pop them whole into your mouth. Soft. Clean. A little taste of peace. Someone makes a net out of old sinew and tries tossing it into trees to snag nests. It doesn't work, but it sparks laughter. That alone feels like a small meal. By evening, you've gathered 5 more eggs. You mark the cliff trail with a line of stones, your way of saying, here, look, life. You're no longer chasing mammoths. You're collecting whispers, and every shell you crack open carries a promise inside of one more sunrise, one more belly half full, of one more day. You find them in a cluster beneath the trees, fleshy, plump, sprouting in damp shadows like secrets growing from the ground. Mushrooms. You pause. Everyone knows someone who got it wrong. You remember the story an uncle who ate the wrong kind and spent 2 days singing to the clouds before collapsing beside the fire. His skin pale and lips blue. He lived, but barely. Still, mushrooms. Some of them are white and spongy. Others dark, like burned bread. One is bright red with white speckles. That one you leave alone. You pick cautiously. Only a few. You bring them back to camp and show the elders. They lean in, sniff, poke, shrug. Someone says, "Those look like the ones we ate last spring." Another frowns. Or the ones that made us forget our own names. You roast a test piece over a flat stone. It shrinks, hisses, releases a smell that's earthy and strange. A little like damp leaves. A little like fear. You take a bite. The texture is soft, like overcooked meat. The flavour hard to describe. Deep, almost smoky. You wait. Nothing. No dizziness. No stomach cramps. No sudden urge to paint animals on the cave wall. Just warmth. You finish the rest. Share small pieces. Cautious bites. Everyone chews slowly. You all listen for danger, not outside the camp this time, but inside your own bellies. Still nothing. A quiet cheer spreads, gentle but real. Someone adds mushroom slices to the hot rock stew. They absorb the broth, soften the roots, add something you haven't tasted in weeks' depth. Like the forest itself has finally offered you a proper meal. Later, someone eats the wrong one. It was small, yellow, almost pretty. She found it near the stream and didn't tell anyone before biting, and she started laughing, then crying, then curled up, shaking. You kept her warm, gave her water, whispered old songs. She survived. But the warning sticks. Historians still argue whether prehistoric people had formal knowledge of which mushrooms were safe or if it was passed down by trial and near death. One theory suggests the wisdom was carried by grandmothers, keepers of stories and stomach-saving advice. You begin drawing a list in your mind. Smooth cap, good. Red dots, bad. Waxy stem, danger. Brown with split underside, maybe okay. You teach the children what you learn. A small boy brings you one shaped like an ear. You roast it carefully. The texture is rubbery, but it fills the corners of your hunger like soft bark never could. At dusk, you place a few sliced mushrooms on a hot stone and watch them curl, darken, release their scent. The fire reflects in your eyes. You chew, you swallow, you breathe. No hallucinations, no regrets, only nourishment. You never thought you'd be this grateful for fungus, but when the mammoths are gone, and the berries are dry, and your jaw aches from chewing seed stones, you'll take what the earth gives you, even if it grows in the dark. You've eaten bark, you've sucked marrow, you've stolen eggs and roasted frogs and even made candy out of bugs. But nothing quite prepares you for today's lesson plants fight back. It starts simple. A new sprout, tender and green, poking through the warming ground like a shy promise. You crouch low and sniff it. It smells fresh, alive, like spring trying to remember itself. You pluck a leaf, chew slowly. At first, nothing, then bitterness, sharp, almost metallic. You spit it out, but your stomach begs for another try, so you keep eating. The nausea hits an hour later. Your gut tightens like a fist. Your head spins. The edges of the world begin to ripple. You stagger to a tree, press your forehead to the bark. Someone calls your name. You hear it, but it comes from a tunnel, echoing through layers of moss. You vomit. Twice. Maybe 3 times. Someone wraps a fur around you and gives you water. You sip. Slowly. The forest returns to its proper shape. The ground steadies. Your breath slows. You're lucky. That plant was not. Later, around the fire, an elder tells a story. Once, she says, a man ate a beautiful plant that whispered to him. He saw lights in the sky and talked to stones. When he woke, he had no name, so we gave him a new one. Choose without thought. Everyone chuckles. You try to smile too, but your mouth still tastes like regret. The next morning, you go back to the patch. You bring 2 others. You dig up the roots, slice them open. Some ooze white, others stain red. You boil each separately in bark cups, over hot stones. You taste 1 drop of each. 1 burns your tongue. 1 numbs your lips. 1 is sweet. You lean forward. You sip more. No sickness. No heat. No fog. You found something new. You bring it back. Mix it with a paste of seeds and sap. The flavour is soft, round, not filling but not fighting either. Historians say prehistoric humans developed a kind of gut wisdom over time, a memory passed not in books, but in bodies. 1 child eats the wrong leaf, survives. and never forgets, then teaches her children to avoid it. One plant makes you sick, another heals you. The knowledge is earned with pain. You start keeping a record not on paper, not in writing, but in ritual. You build a ring of stones near the safe plant. You mark the toxic one with a circle of bones. When the children play nearby, you point to the bones and say, "That one bites back." They remember. You test another patch of greenery. Long leaves, soft edges. You crush them and rub the juice on a scrape. The pain dulls. You've just made your first poultice. Soon, you're experimenting daily. A bark tea here, a mashed leaf there. One mixture helps with sore jaws. Another calms the shakes after cold nights. The others begin to notice. They bring you plants, now odd roots, colourful berries, strange saps. You test carefully. Record everything. In your mind. You're no longer just a forager. You're becoming something else. A food finder. A healer. A risk taker. One night, someone comes to you with a bruised leg. You crush a handful of minty-smelling leaves and pack them around the swelling. The next day, it's better. You feel something strange pride. Of course, not every attempt works. One root makes everyone's mouths dry for half a day. Another makes a boy burp for hours. You all laugh until your sides ache. You're not just surviving anymore. You're experimenting, learning, pushing. Plants, it turns out, have personalities. Some are shy, some are angry, some are generous if you treat them right. You learn to listen, not with your ears, but with your skin, your tongue, your breath. Historians still debate how much plant knowledge early humans truly had. Some think it was vast, detailed, passed through generations like sacred poetry. Others believe it was more chaotic trial, error, desperation. You think it's both. You lie down that night with a belly full of warm root tea and a pocket of seeds tucked into your pouch. Your head spins, but not from sickness, from wonder. The forest isn't just a threat anymore, it's a library. And you're learning to read. It starts as a craving, subtle, odd. You wake one morning and your body doesn't beg for meat or bark or berries. It begs for something stranger, something dry, earthy. Your mouth tastes hollow. You find yourself staring at a patch of pale clay near the stream, cracked and sun-bleached. It has no smell. It doesn't move. It offers nothing that looks like food. But you crouch beside it anyway. You press a damp finger into the clay and bring it to your tongue. It tastes like dust and old stone. And yet you want more. You're not alone. Another clan member joins you, scooping a little with a flat stone and tasting it slowly, almost sheepishly. "My grandmother used to eat this," she murmurs, not looking up. Your stomach settles. The next day, you go back. You find another patch, richer in colour, brown and soft like fine powder. It clings to your fingers and smells like rain that hasn't fallen yet. You bake it gently over the fire, watching it darken slightly, then crush it into bits. You eat a small piece, no gag, no sickness, just a strange, calming heaviness. It sits in your belly like quiet strength. Others begin to follow. Soon, a few of you are trading patches. One man swears the red clay keeps him warm at night. Another prefers the white powdery kind good for clearing the sourness, she says, patting her chest. A young girl brings you a strange rock pink and salt speckled. You lick it on instinct. Salt. Your whole body lights up. You break it open, chip by chip, and share it around like treasure. The taste is electric sharp. essential. Your skin feels more alive. Even your thoughts seem clearer. Salt, the forgotten craving. Historians know prehistoric people often consumed minerals from the environment salt licks, charcoal, even clay. It wasn't about taste. It was survival instinct, a deep understanding of what the body lacks. Some scientists today call this pica, but in your world, it's just listening. You begin to seek out mineral-rich places. You scrape lichen from rocks, boil it. Sometimes it's bitter, sometimes it's sweet. You try eating soft stone powder from cliffsides. Some of it is chalky, some gritty, but a few kinds leave you feeling stronger. One morning you find a pit in the forest floor, soft grey clay, damp and cool. You carve it out with your hands, shape it into small pellets. Let them dry beside the fire. They harden into dull little stones, the colour of rain clouds. You store them in a pouch, travel snacks. Not for flavour, for balance. Someone jokes that you're eating the earth now. You smile and nod. Yes, you are. One evening, a child grows ill. Nothing specific. Just weak, pale, slow to move. You offer her a few crumbs of salt, a small clay pellet softened in broth. She sucks it slowly, lips coated in wet dust. By morning, she's better. Not cured, but steadier. More and more. Your clan begins to trust these strange new cravings. You learn to notice signs: cracking lips, dull eyes, dizzy spells. Each symptom tells a story. Too little salt, too much ash, not enough clay. You adapt. You line a pouch with soft moss and fill it with powdered minerals, crushed shells, burned bone, even ash from certain trees. You mark them with tiny charcoal drawings so you remember which is which. You're no longer just scavenging food. You're building a language of the body. Historians still argue whether early humans understood nutrition, but standing at the edge of a salt pit, tongue tingling and eyes alert, you don't need anyone's theory. You just know. At night, you stir a bit of chalk into warm water and sip it by the fire. The taste is bland, but your gut settles, your thoughts slow. The hunger fades, not entirely, but enough, and deep in your bones, you feel something even rarer: stability. The earth gives you meat, it gives you roots, but it also gives you itself, bit by bit, grain by grain. You eat the earth, and it feeds you back. By now, your tongue is numb to judgment. You've eaten things no one talks about in songs. You've chewed fibres that weren't really food and sucked marrow from bones you didn't even kill. So when you pick up today's prize, a lump of sour-smelling fat clinging to old hide, you don't hesitate. You just ask yourself one question. Is this food? And your body answers. It will be. You roast it carefully, watching it bubble over the fire. The smell is sharp, like animal sweat and smoke, but the heat transforms it. It sizzles, darkens, turns soft at the edges. You taste it. Greasy, chewy, but warm. You swallow and feel it spread through your chest like an ember. Across the fire, someone else chews on a string of dried intestines. Not the ones saved from the last real kill. Those are long gone. These were found in a forgotten pouch, left to dry stiff as leather. No one knows whose they were, or what animal they came from, but they're food now, and that's when it happens. You glance around the fire. People are eating different things, strange things. Someone has roasted a strip of fish skin scavenged from a gull's nest. Another is chewing what looks suspiciously like fur, boiled until it turned to jelly. None of this was in the plan, but it works. You're inventing meals now, improvising survival. One clan member takes crushed beetles, mixes them with tree sap, and wraps them in bark like dumplings. Someone else bakes crushed roots and frog skin into patties, and somehow, they're edible. Not tasty, not beautiful, but edible. You eat one and find yourself smiling, not because it's good, because it's new. You've traded taste for survival, and now survival has started tasting like invention. Historians often underestimate the creativity of early humans. They speak of food as function, not expression. But you know better. You've watched a starving child press wild seeds into hot sap with care, decorate the top with crushed ants and offer it to her mother like a gift. That's not desperation. That's art. You've also begun swapping foods between families. Someone finds a plant you've never seen, with tiny blue roots that smell like mint and ash. You offer them your bark paste in return. There's a flicker of pride in their eyes as they hand you the bundle. Trade. Not just in things, in ideas. One night, the clans gather near the fire, one by one. They present their latest discoveries. A roasted mushroom cap stuffed with snail meat, crushed clay balls with marrow centre, pine cone seeds soaked in salt water until they pop like soft corn. Everyone eats. No one laughs. Not out of shame, but reverence. You're inventing a future out of leftovers. And the thing is, you feel full. Not in the belly, maybe, but somewhere deeper. The younger hunter leans toward you, licking berry syrup from her fingers. They used to call us scavengers, she says. Now we're chefs. You snort. Call it whatever helps you chew, but secretly you agree. You fall asleep that night with grease on your chin and sap in your hair, curled beside the fire like a creature that's not just surviving anymore, but changing, adapting, and what started as desperation has turned into something even rarer than meat hope. The fire tonight crackles louder than usual, not because it's bigger, but because of the quiet that surrounds it. No chatter, no clanking of stones. Not even the wind dares interrupt. Everyone is listening. To stories. It started with a simple murmur. Someone recounting the time they slipped into a wasp nest thinking it was a honey hive. Then another voice chimed in, telling of the frog that jumped from a boiling pot and disappeared, never to be seen again. Then someone laughed, and suddenly the whole circle leaned forward. Stories, like food, are shared, but these aren't tales of glory, not of mammoth chases or heroic spears. These are hunger stories. One woman tells of the time she tried to roast bark soaked in marrow grease and accidentally created a sort of chip. Her eyes gleam with nostalgia, as if remembering a feast. Another remembers when she stole a half-rotten fish from a fox's mouth and ran so fast she forgot to breathe. You listen quietly, then add your own the first time you cracked a bone and the marrow hissed at you. How you thought it was cursed and still ate it anyway. Laughter ripples, warm, dry, the kind that only comes from exhaustion and shared survival. Someone hums a tune, low, minor. It grows, picks up words. You recognize them fragments of a song about snow, fire, and empty bowls. It's more breath than melody, but everyone joins in. You sway without realizing. Stories take the edge off hunger. They stretch time, like boiled roots in a thin broth. They remind you that you are not alone, not in suffering, not in effort, not in memory. Historians believe oral tradition began here, around fires just like this one, when bellies were empty and eyes wide with the cold, not to teach, not to warn, but to endure. You've begun to recognize the signs. When someone wraps a blanket tighter and stares too long at nothing, tell them a story. When a child's jaw trembles with hunger, give them a tale where food falls from the sky. When an elder sighs too often, remind them of a time they were strong enough to chew bark and still sing. Tonight's stories are small but sacred. One boy insists he once saw a mammoth sleeping under the lake, waiting for spring. Another swears the bees whispered directions to the sweetest tree. You nod along. Belief is not the point. Belief is the vehicle. You pass around a boiled root. Each person takes a bite more symbolic than nourishing. But the warmth spreads. Someone begins carving lines into a bone each mark, a meal remembered, or a near meal, or a moment someone tricked their body into forgetting its hunger. The bone becomes heavy with meaning. You keep it near the fire, always. That night, you dream of a feast, not of roasted mammoth or steaming bowls, but of voices, woven together like threads of smoke, and in the dream, you don't eat, you just listen, and wake full. There's a sound you haven't heard in weeks. Thunder, but not from the sky. It's the earth shaking, faint, at first like a drumbeat under your skin, then stronger. The trees begin to sway in rhythm. You rise slowly, your breath caught between caution and hope. Others are looking too, eyes wide, frozen mid-task. You all feel it. A deep, rolling tremble that isn't danger, not exactly. Then someone points, over the far ridge, past the dead trees and bone-strewn flats. A shape moves. Then another, massive, slow, deliberate. Mammoths, not many, maybe 3, maybe 5. 1 calf, 2 females, 1 bull. Their shapes blur with distance, like a dream too bright to look at straight. But there's no mistaking them. They've returned. Your heart leaps, then stalls. Around you, no one cheers, no one moves. Because now, the question isn't whether you can catch them, it's whether you even want to. You watch the youngest mammoth stumble slightly in the snow, its thick fur dusted with frost. It nudges its mother, and she leans into it, a gesture so human it hurts. For weeks, you imagine this moment reunion, redemption, roasted victory. But now, your hands are tired, your fire is steady, your belly is no longer empty. You've learned how to survive without them. And maybe, just maybe, that changes everything. Someone whispers, "Do we chase?" No one answers right away. You sit by the fire, the spear still beside you, and remember what you've become: a bark chewer, a beetle roaster, a seed grinder, a healer, a storyteller, not a hunter anymore, a survivor. The mammoths move slowly across the ridge, casting long shadows as the sun begins to set. One of them lifts its head and snorts into the wind. Then they disappear. You sit there long after they're gone, blinking at the empty horizon. There's no sadness, just peace, because you've made it this far, and not because of the mammoths, but because of everything else, because of you. And now, as the fire flickers low and the wind hums through the trees like a lullaby, you feel it settling into your bones, that long, slow calm that follows the storm of hunger. You're no longer chasing shadows in the snow, no longer scraping marrow from dry bones or chewing bark until your jaw aches. Tonight, the world softens. The dirt under your hands is no longer just soil, it's memory, warmth, resilience. You can almost taste the echoes of every strange or desperate meal that carried you here. Sap on your tongue, smoke in your lungs, laughter in the spaces between chewing. You lie back, fur pulled up to your chin, and listen to the sighs of your clan around you. Deep, restful, unhurried. Somewhere beyond the trees, the mammoths walk beneath the stars, unaware that tonight they were spared, not out of mercy, but because you no longer need them the way you once did. Your hunger taught you more than survival. It taught you creativity, community, and the quiet joy of making something out of nothing. The fire crackles one last time, then fades into a bed of gentle coals. The stars stretch wide above you, ancient and silent, and with a belly not quite full, but a heart more than content, you let yourself drift, not just into sleep, but into peace.